Magnificent Mecha 01 Optimus is arguably one of the most anticipated Transformers in 2022. Before the next movie came out, we finally get a screen-accurate Prime that transforms into that beautiful and timeless red and blue truck. So today, let's talk about it. Inside of a massive mailer box, there's the sleeve packaging with a very similar style of ThreeZero Deluxe Prime on the front, the robot and truck mode on the back. Taking the sleeve off, there's a massive plastic window showcasing the figure with a product shot on the other side. There are two separate plastic trays, one for the figure and the hands, and one for the stand, the smokestacks for the truck mode, and the blaster. The hexagon stand is 23 cm at the widest point, 4.5 cm tall, very well painted in metallic gray with some silver dry brushing. The shape looks like a massive snowflake. Nothing on the bottom, and I recommend adding some padding to increase friction and protect the paint. Beside the fists that come with the figure, there are 3 pairs of hands. Open palms, trigger finger hands, and pointing hands. The hands are pretty stiff, and it's still very difficult to mount the gun to the holding hand after blowing with a hairdryer, even harder to take it off. The gun has the same treatment as the stand, removable magazine with too small of a caliber for such a big blaster, and I think it's intentional that the barrel is a 5mm port, so compatible with siege blasting effects. 2 smokestacks, so you could either rotate or replace the smokestacks for the truck mode. And lastly, the instruction booklet. Glossy art paper, high quality print, but the part for the transformation is a bit too dark to read. The very first impression I have about MM01 is it looks breathtaking. I've been collecting Transformers forever, and this Prime is easily a tier 1. Everything is covered with glossy metallic paint, the exposed metal joints go perfectly with the painted parts, sculpted detail everywhere, the silver dry brushing is very light, the weathering wash is also just a thin layer, the entire figure looks shiny and clean. The transformation cuts blend in nicely with the panel lines and mechanical details, making it very hard to believe it transforms. There are no obvious screw holes except for 2 tiny ones on the thighs. The figure's overall look is just very well done. This dopamine rush I have holding this figure is very much like the moment when I first unboxed my MP1 19 years ago. It's simply stunning, a very premium product. But of course it's not flawless. Looking closely, there are a few tiny blemishes, slight oversprays, in some areas there's orange peel on the paint, and some parts have a certain level of shrinkage. Luckily, none of these looks too obvious, and they don't hurt the overall look. The figure measures about 31 cm tall and weighs 965 grams without the gun. Proportionally, it is very close to the CGI model in the movie. I took a similar shot with a 50mm lens so that it has the least distortion, and here's a quick comparison. Generally, MM01 is beefier than the CGI model. The chest is a bit wider, the arms are shifted a bit lower, and the lower legs are slightly thicker and wider. With almost the exact same body proportion, the CGI model looks leaner and MM01 just looks stronger. So putting together the right proportion, the amazing details, and the great paintwork, MM01 looks just awesome. Under the hood, there's the metal skeleton design that Magnificent Mecha spent a lot of effort advertising. After fumbling with this guy for a while, I found quite a few design decisions that show how much the engineer wanted this figure to be outstanding. First, the use of materials. There are no ratchet joints on the figure, but it's very noticeable how comfortably tight, smooth, and quiet most joints are. Almost all visible joint hinges are metal pins with some kind of washer, providing that pleasing sensation moving these joints. No one knows how long this will last. It's very much a your mileage may vary scenario, so hope it's durable enough. There are very tough material used, like palm on the hip and ankle joints, providing strong support for the figure. There are also more pliable materials used to avoid breakage, and of course, die-cast metal joints all over the figure. And second, there are some user-friendly design details. The window hinges are spring-loaded. They're very useful for securing the windows in place in robot mode. There's a double rail mechanism connecting the upper chest to the waist. and it's designed to help fold all the panels in and out of the chest for transformation. These are thoughtful design details for making the transformation experience more smooth and enjoyable. I give it a thumb up. The plastic used on the figure feels very sturdy. There will be future upgrades for the Cybertron mode, and it uses magnets for the replacement parts on the forearms. So MM01 does many things right, but there are also some issues, starting with ball joints. First, the hands are too tight, making it pretty scary every time changing the hands. Second, the front skirt piece is too loose, and the one on the left just falls off all the time. And the last one is the back armor. These pieces will 100% fall off during transformation. The second issue is about the light up feature. There's an LED for lighting up the eyes. 2 AG13 batteries pre-installed, that's good. But when the light is on, it shines through the face mask, giving Optimus a glowing face. The easy fix is to use electronic tape, preferably black, to seal the inside, and that's much better. Beside these minor issues, there are also things that I recommend doing to maintain the figure in good conditions. To post the figure in the standard A stance, the thighs are rotated outward a little bit. It's going to be a problem for Prime because that's where the metal joints and screws are, and they will wear down the tip of the armor. So what I recommend is to get some thicker padding like 3mm to cover the metal parts. Thinner ones won't do the job. The same thing for the nicely painted feet. Some stripes of paddings will do. And when I was doing this, I found magnets under the feet. So in short, great attention to detail, excellent build quality with some minor issues. The transformation process is a bit of a surprise. It's much simpler and easier than expected. The entire sequence is very similar to Fire Scorpion M09. So the torso is pretty much the same MP1/MP10 transformation plus a bit of shell forming, pretty easy to follow. The arms almost don't transform except for some folding on the shoulders. The leg transformation is actually simple and fun, very straightforward. In my opinion, the overall complexity is between MP12 and MP44. And what I like about this transformation is it takes almost no extra effort to have this final adjustment. When things tab in together, they are in the right place, and that feels very satisfying. And what's more rewarding is the final result. It's just a nice looking truck. And honestly, this probably is the best looking truck of my Prime collection. The front face looks spot on. It should always be just like this. The side profile is proportionate and very pleasing to look at. The transformation cuts are minimal. The rear of the truck is not overly thick or too long like most of my Optimus trucks. And there are actual taillights on bumper that don't look like jokes. Of course, the mechanical details are not faithful to the real deal, and it misses the roof lights on the top, but I really don't have any complaints. I just love this truck. 6 rubber tires all touching the ground, but one of them doesn't roll well. The wiper blades are made out of rubber and they rotate. The trailer hitch is compatible with MPP10's trailer and the scale actually works. But it's too close to the front of the truck, leaving very small room for turning. The articulation is not MM01's strong suit, especially the upper body. By today's standard, it's just average. The head is on a ball joint, decent downward but very limited upward movement. The shoulder is the biggest controversy of this figure. It does lift 90, but it breaks the sculpt badly. Untabbing the panels on the shoulder helps a little bit, but it requires the bicep to be turned 90 so that it goes under the shoulder armor. But it's just not good either way. The shoulder joint could move out of the socket a little bit, and it provides a butterfly swing that covers 120 degrees. There's a 360 bicep cut. The elbow goes only 90. This is another gripe, and has an extra rotation due to transformation. There's a hinge for the waist joint and a ball joint for the hand, so pretty good range for the hands. 360 rotation on the waist, but it requires moving the side skirts out of the way first. The ab crunch is about 30 degrees. The front skirt is on a double ball joint. The side skirt is on a double hinge, and there's a tab on the side skirt that goes into the front piece, which I don't recommend since it scratches the paint on those tabs. The back skirt is on a ball joint and a hinge. The leg moves forward on the metal joint, which slides down to provide more room moving up the leg until it hits the hinge for the side skirt. But after all this, it's just a bit over 90. The leg moves backward about 60, blocked by the armor, and now we're 90. The thigh rotation is very minimal, double jointed knee that goes about 150. The foot moves forward only a little bit, backward a bit more, tilts about 30 degrees, and they rotate. 2 armor pieces move separately, and the tail lifts a small range. So generally, the articulation is sacrificed for the transformation, the sculpt, and the metal skeleton structure. It's now super articulated like an action figure, but good enough for most Prime poses. So in summary, MM01 has a very clear proposition. It is for Transformer fans who want the best looks in both modes. It is sculpted after the deluxe Optimus from ThreeZero, the best looking Prime on the scale, and has a truck mode that is almost as good with a decent transformation process. It's not super articulated, its transformation is necessarily complex, but it is by far the best we've got in the journey of pursuing that Optimus dream that every fan has. And for that reason, it's truly magnificent. And now, transform and roll out.